What's going on, guys? My name is Zuko here, and today I am going to be bringing you guys the tier list you've always been waiting for, a guide on which character to pick, where they are ranking based off of my 500 plus hours of experience in this game, and the results may shock you. Some of the characters might be a little bit higher than you think, some of them might be a little bit lower than you think, so let's get straight into this video. Hope you guys enjoy. So we're going to start off with the best character in the game, Enzo. Enzo is an extremely strong character because number one, he gives your team infinite ammo. Through your 4, not through your 1, your 4 ability allows for you to basically have no cooldown whenever you build him right. This allows for you to proc your 4 over and over and over again, which not only gives you a bunch of drones to give to you and the rest of your team, it gives them passive ammo for every single ammo type in the game, and this is extremely strong whether you're using high-powered rounds for helping other of the other characters who also do the best DPS in the game do this, but also for the main thing here, the supply firearm enhancer. What is this? This is one of his transcendent modules. It gives not only you but your whole team that picks it up. Whenever you pair it also with your 4, you give yourself altogether a team plus 50% crit rate, plus 20 attack, and plus 15 weak point damage. Whenever you have all of this up 100% of the time, this is an extremely big damage boost. For yourself, you will always have this up. For your team, they have to be somewhat near you, so that way they can pick up these actual supply firearm boosts every single time. But for a Gley, for example, the synergy with this is extremely insane. So for example, I'm going to be on my Enzo here. I'm going to place it down. I'm going to switch to my Gley here. Then I'm going to go ahead and switch. I'm going to go ahead and pull out my Python. I currently run Blood and Iron. I think it's our best one. So you see, I grab the boost. I pop this. And look at this. We're now able to basically fire this bad boy pretty much infinitely with this supply firearm boost, which gives me a huge weak point boost. It gives me a boost in everything. As you can see, this makes it to where I pretty much have infinite life siphons, as you can see, right? Let's say we wait it out. Boom, as you can see, that boost is still there. You can obviously tell by the crit rate percentage. This is me if I were to have a, again, a crit rate of plus... this one right here is plus 30, so this is a plus 30% crit rate chance, right? And this is insane because this is me without even using my actual Enzo with the actual drones from his 4 as well, and it's already making this Python insane. So again, this is extremely good, making, you know, again, like I said, the Blood and Iron one of the most scalable things. So pairing this with the Gley, if you also have the drones with 100% uptime, this allows for Gley to give herself, again, a plus 50% crit rate to whatever weapon she's using. In this case, the Python, that'll be insane. A plus 20 at firearm attack, a plus 15 weak point damage. So then when you pair all of this now look at this. We're able to grab this boost pretty much for forever. Oh, it was on the wrong one. But just imagine if it was the Python, right? So boom, we got it. And we're able to keep this boost to the massacre for the whole entire time. Now, not only is it for that, but also for a Sharen. A Sharen, she can give herself, again, a plus 50 crit rate, a plus 20 firearm attack, and a plus 15 weak point damage. This allows for you to actually go inside the lab and test how much of a boost she's going to give you just from the actual weak point and the crit rate boost. Without the 20% firearm attack, this is also going to be insane huge boost for Sharen, because this also gives her infinite ammo, which is really insane. But you pair all of this with the Greg's Reverse Fate with an Enzo, and this makes him one of the best DPS characters in the game, on top of one of the best support characters in the game. And he does some of the best passive dot damage in the game. He does about 50k damage per bullet if you have it built right, allowing for you to give each and every one of your teammates a drone that is going to do 50k damage per bullet 3 times a second, and then you have 4 people doing all of this damage. If you add that up, that is probably some of the most guaranteed really best dot damage that you can get from a character where you're not actively over inspecting it into it, and this all happens while you're giving these boosts to the rest of your team. When you add all of this damage up, this is some of the best DPS that you're going to get out of a character, while also building for your actual passives and your character actually doing insane DPS. If that wasn't enough for you, he also has a 3 slot that allows for him to have infinite shields, and again, it doesn't really cost you anything whenever you have them built correctly. You can have unlimited MP if you know, make the build right. This allows for you to always have shields, so you can always be ready to face the content in the game. You're going to be a tank as well, netting him the first spot. This is a really strong character. Next up, we have for our place here, we have Sharen. Sharen is one of the best characters in the game because her overcharge edge, you can have 100% uptime on this when you're using it with the piercing light. The fire rate of the piercing light works perfectly with this. This allows for you to make sure every single shot that you are firing is going to hit for that super huge boost that the overcharge edge, her transcendent module gives you. This is really good, and we already talked about her Enzo synergy. This also allows for her to, if you don't run any shields, your overcharge edge takes 50% of your shields. The lower your shield count is, the easier it's going to be for you to recharge that shield to get it back to 50% of that shield. If you have shield recovery modifier, if you also had shield recovery in combat and shield recovery out of combat, it's going to increase how much you're going to get per that 10 times per second. So that's going to make it to where, again, you have 100% uptime on that overcharge edge. So every shot is dealing for that huge amount of damage. This makes her, whenever you have the piercing light fully kitted out, the best DPS in the game easily. And when you're pairing her with an Enzo and you're giving yourself that plus 20, plus 50, and then that plus 15 to the weak point, this makes her even more the best, where you can get up to 80 to even 100 mil DPS in an actual intercept boss fight, which would be actually insane. You'd be able to hit all the way up to 28 million per shot whenever you do your strengthened first shot, and then up to 15 million per shot every single time you fire your thing. Now, if that wasn't enough for you, let me explain how you can get all of these damage numbers, because a lot of people don't believe you can actually reach these numbers. I'll explain that in a second. But she also allows for herself, whenever you run 3 sniper rifles with their piercing light, you can go ahead and run her with, instead of the electric enhancement, I'll tell you why you want to run electric with it. You can run this here. This when acquiring impact round. This will basically, if you slot this in for this will make it to where you can actively go ahead. Anytime you see green ammo, you'll get yourself up to 2 to 3, depending on what it is, ammo for your sniper rifle. So you can actually switch this out, so that way if you're not playing with an Enzo, you can still have infinite ammo. And you can go ahead and run 2 other sniper rifles for, in this case, you can just go ahead and run it like this. And the cool thing about this is that you don't have to upgrade this. It's not going to give you more. It's just going to lower the cost of it. So it's really, really easy to do. This will allow for you to run this Afterglow sword. You never have to actually use the weapon. It's just, if you see white ammo that falls after you kill something, you can switch to this weapon and then give yourself 2 ammo count, which is going to give you your bullets, or even 3. And then for the last one here, you can do the exact same thing here. Again, run that special round. Anytime you see the orange ammo fall from a mob that you kill, you can go ahead and switch to this loadout, switch to this weapon, and then again give yourself all this ammo. This allows for you to again have infinite ammo on Sharen, allowing her to have 100% uptime on this. Another cool thing about her is that she can res her team for free. Her invis has no cooldown whenever you build her correctly. This allows for you to basically infinitely free res everything on your team and infinitely not get attacked by anything in the game outside of a Colossus. It's the only thing that your invis does not work on. So she has no aggro for the most part of a fight, so she never really dies. And then one of the strongest things about her is that whenever you actually use her battlesuit rounds transcendent module, I believe this is the reason why I mainly put her in second place, because her overcharge is nice, but it takes a lot of skill to use that. But the easiest one to use that anyone can kind of do is you can use her battlesuit rounds, and if you pair that with the devotion, you can now make it to where any shot that you do, whenever you throw your actual battlesuit rounds and you hit them with the devotion once, you're going to give any enemy in the game, Colossus or whatever, minus 70 of their defense forever, because you have no cooldown on both of these technically, because you can keep it up 100% of the time. This allows for everyone on your team to benefit from a boss now doing 70% less. I mean, your boss now taking 70% off of their defense, which means now everyone is hitting, basically think of it as hitting a lot harder. I'm not going to say 70% harder, but all the damage numbers you'll see that you would hit on, let's say, a level 30 enemy, expect yourself to hit that on these Colossus. So that's basically the strongest, honestly, DPS boost in the game. So this makes her one of the best supports, and everyone hitting harder, because now you can make an extremely tanky boss like Gluttony now go from like a sub 1 minute clear to now a 10-second clear, just by you having a Sharen. Now you can either use a Sharen with the devotion and that still will be good, but you'll lose a lot of DPS like that. You can use a Sharen and then have her just use the battlesuit rounds with her sniper rifle, and then have another character use the devotion that's maxed out to give it all the way together a minus 70 defense. And then she also gives, if you add electric damage, one of the best actual elements in the game, if you pair this with her, This will make it to where they're going to give every boss in the game a minus 40% to their electric resistance. This is going to be really strong because electric itself already lowers their defense. So when you pair it all together, minus 50 to the electric, and since every weapon pretty much uses this element, you want to kind of do this for the most part, except the Greg's Reverse, it naturally does burn. This makes it to where you can actually make it to where you're getting so much more electrical damage off, and it's going to be insane. For a bunny, this makes your hit even harder. This is really, really strong. You're looking at about 2.3 million to even 4 million, even up to even probably 6 million per tick with high voltage if you use this with the Sharen and a bunny. So this, again, she gives everyone in the game the biggest DPS boost possible because you're lowering all of the boss's defense, netting her this second place. It's extremely, extremely strong. A lot of people have not done this enough, and it's really, really nice. Next up, we have Kyle here for our third spot. Kyle is honestly, I think, the best character in the game whenever it comes to what all he can do, because he gives you a balance of everything, which is the reason why I put him over Yujin. He gives you shields and magnetic force. The more shields you have, the more magnetic force you have, making your 3 and your 4 hit harder. Bulwark ability. This allows for you whenever you're going against a Colossus to literally just jump into them. And since they aren't going to get knocked back by it, it allows for you to just build your magnetic force all the way up forever. And since this thing has no cooldown and it costs you nothing, this is pretty much where you're always going to have 100% of your magnetic force just by using this ability. See how it's knocking them back? Well, a Colossus doesn't get knocked back. So every single tick of this happens over and over and over again. Every single tick. So the more of the boss's body you hit with this, the more you jump up and into them, it just gives you more ticks. So you can extremely build all of your ticks really, really fast, making him have 100% uptime on his magnetic force, and this makes him really, really strong against Colossus. This means now you can basically explode your nuke every single time with the most amount of damage you could possibly do. Well, that's not everything. His shield allows free res for your team. If you're not going to use the bulwark and you actually want to use it in case someone goes down, you can go ahead and put your shield and let your other teammates sort of res them for free. That gives you a lot of actual utility for a team, and it also builds your magnetic force whenever people actually shoot your shield when you're not using bulwark. He also makes it to where all of his team is immortal from him using his 3 slot. His 3 slot has no cooldown. It costs you nothing whenever you have them built how you just saw, and this allows for you to basically make it to where you 100% recover all of your team shields that is in that radius. So if everyone is near you, you can recover all of their shields. Let's say if their shield count was 10,000, let's say for a Kyle in this example, or let's say if again an Enzo who's running shields because he has shield recovery, let's say Enzo is running 5,000 shields, and the highest attack damage that you can get from a Gluttony, for example, with his one shot will hit you for like, let's say 7,000, and it would really, really tank all of your DPS. Well, a Kyle can say every second he can boop, pop this 3 and then give you all your shields back. And then he can pop it again in another second and then give you all your shields back, allowing for, again, everyone in your team that is running even just 2,000 shields becoming somewhat immortal. If they had, let's say, 15k health and then 2,000 shields, you would basically be unkillable. You just have to be somewhere near Kyle. You don't have to worry about tick damage. You don't have to worry about the fire damage. You don't have to worry about elemental anything. You now make everyone in the game extremely busted. There's no need to run defense now. There's no need to run anything because he is the one character in the game that it costs you nothing to proc an ability. You can proc every single second that gives you 100% of one resource, which is your shields. So if you play with a Kyle on your team and a Kyle actually has his build built right, forget HP. Well, get a little bit of HP just so that way you can have a little bit, but go into shields twice and then give yourself at least 1 HP. So a 3 module investment, and I promise you, go against Gluttony and he will not be able to do any damage. Just stand still and then beam him, and then watch as Kyle spams this while he's doing everything passively. And that's the cool thing about this. He can do all of this while he's actively doing DPS to the boss. So there's no downtime in his DPS. And not only is it giving everyone shields, it's also CCing everything else in the game around him. Which means if you're doing a dungeon for the new dungeon that's coming out, I'm going to be using Kyle with my team, and we're going to run through that mission without any difficulty because they will not be able to die just by staying somewhat near me. I can increase the range of this ability as well and make it to where no one on my team can die, and I make everything that gets hit by this ability fall down to the ground, and then they get back up, and by the time they get back, I'll just make them fall back down to the ground again, basically making it to where nothing in this game outside of a Colossus or a Void Fragment boss has no difficulty. That makes him extremely, extremely strong. And this attack also hits really, really hard for up to 600k damage non-crit whenever you're running it with the Slayer set, making him extremely good. And when you're running him with the Valby on the team who can inflict the toad, you can now make it to where you can give yourself a 17% chance to get 12.2 of this custom resource magnetic force for free. And if you're running him with the actual weapons that he has, you can make it to where you have no sort of like issues with magnetic recovery. Go watch my guide on Kyle to go ahead and check more about him. Now let's go ahead and move on to Lepic. Let's go ahead and use this ultimate version. Actually, everyone knows why this character is good. Firearm Master, best DPS in the game whenever you pair it with precision sharp shot. This allows for you to fire over and over, faster and faster and faster. And this is also really strong for boss DPS. Most of the bosses in the game are really weak to this sort of thing. Increased efficiency is really nice as well for mobbing purposes. Especially if you're running the gather enemy grenade where you throw it out, and if you put expansion range, you can make it to where this radius is extremely huge, to where everything basically gets brought into this one spot, and then you become a Gley where you can just increase the efficiency, fire all of these explosion rockets that hit really hard whenever you are pairing the 4 crit damage modules. And then the crit rate, this makes it to where he hits really hard, and he just basically one taps everything, and you can sit in this mode forever. So mobbing purposes, increased efficiency is extremely good. For bossing purposes, Firearm Master, his 2 Transcendent modules are really good, and then his grenades are nice. And then his gather grenade, basically just what I call it, you throw it down and then it groups everything in this radius. You can have this radius become one of the best radius like abilities in the game, so it legit can take everything in the map and then put it in one spot and then nuke it all. It's extremely effective mobbing, making him again one of the best characters in this game. Now let's go into the next best character. Just pretend this is ultimate Valby here. Valby, with the Slayer set, she makes every character in the game get a free MP collector and a free potent collector. So this automatically makes her one of the better support characters in the game, because all she has to do is hit them with the laundry effect, and if they get hit enough by it with their 4 as well, they're going to inflict toad. And this allows for anyone that kills those enemies inflicted with toad to now have a 17% chance of getting MP recovery and actual custom resources recovery, which means a Valby paired with the Lone is also a really good combination, because now no character has to run MP collector or even potent collector, because she basically gives it to you whenever you run the Slayer set. And since the Slayer set is technically the best set in the game, honestly, for the most part, there's a lot of hidden factors, but that skill power boost is really nice. And playing with the Valby makes it to where the Slayer set just becomes even better. I'm sorry. It's kind of insane. But also she has a Transcendent module that allows for her to get a huge firearm attack boost when using the Greg's Reverse Fate. With this is actually a lot of damage. Her dot damage and the fact that you can increase its critical rate whenever you put another beam over it makes it to where she can now get to extremely high values of crit rate, which means the more you stack into her crit rate, you're looking at some extremely good dot damage from her as well, making her again one of the best dot damage characters in the game. Also making her one of the best actual burst little DPS characters in the game whenever you're using her new thing for her ultimate Valby. But mainly it's that firearm attack trans module that allows for her to hit really hard with the Greg's Reverse Fate and other weapons as well if you would so choose. But mainly it's her support that she can get here with this new Slayer set. It really gives her a huge boost, and since she can actively use this, she now doesn't need to run MP collector or potent collector. She is basically the main support for that, so you can give yourself all your MP that you would need back just by running that set. I think it's one of her best set, but there are multiple other sets that you can use, absolutely, and nor am I saying Slayer set is her best set for her to use. Moving on, the next best character we have here is gonna be Gley. I think Gley is an extremely strong character. We already saw what Enzo could do for her. Her Massacre, which is her 4, is extremely good. I think Blood and Iron is her best ability, especially if you're being paired with an Enzo. I think that you can obviously use Sanguine. I think Sanguine is just a little bit harder to do in the harder content in the game. A lot of people are starting to see that, and they're starting to get immediately blown up just by them, trying to nuke the boss. They're realizing that, hey, these bosses are having a lot much more health, so you can't just tank all of your health by constantly proccing this thing. So this is where Blood and Iron shines, and this is why I believe the best thing for you to use would be Blood and Iron. You can use Sanguine if you want to, but using that against Gluttony, you might get yourself into some trouble. But there's also another one that's starting to creep up just a little bit, and it's Predatory Instinct. If you have the Greg's Reverse Fate as your weapon of choice instead of wanting to use the Python with her, this makes it to where you can now give yourself a much bigger boost to the Greg's Reverse Fate, and this actually makes a huge difference for how the Greg's Reverse Fate works. So you can actually go for that if you would so choose to as well. But honestly speaking, I would honestly recommend just running Blood and Iron and then running the Greg's Reverse Fate. This allows for you to have an extremely high critical hit rate, basically the same thing that you would get from a Thunder Cage, while also having this super huge, attack. And if you run this with an Enzo as well, you're just looking at extremely high DPS potential as well. But then again, if you're running this with an Enzo, then Predator Instinct might be a better boost for you if you're running with an Enzo. But Gley has a lot of different, modes she can kind of play. Her Life Siphon with Sanguine and Blood and Iron is really, really strong because you can practically do it infinitely, which is really, really nice. Siphon is one of your most important abilities, so you need to make sure you're not taking away a lot of your health in order to do that. And this is the reason why I say you kind of want to sit into your Frenzy or use the rest of her kit and use Maximize Recovery. Things I said in my first videos with Gley now starting to come to light because the content is a little bit harder and you can't just nuke everything with, one sort of, life cycle. The next best character I have is going to be Blair. Blair is an insane character because his dot damage can get all the way up to a 75% chance of critting, which is insane. Not only for his actual dot damage, for his crit rate. And his crit rate can also get a plus 10% boost whenever you add everything together, on top of his actual crit rate now getting all the way up to like 4.5 times the actual damage of the original number, which means if you now run Truly Deadly Kazine, you can now make it to where the second highest attack value in the game now has a 75% chance of critting with a 4.5 times multiplier. This means every 7 seconds when you're running it with no cooldown, which is how I'm running my Blair. I'm going to be making a guide on him pretty soon, showing you guys exactly this here. This allows for you to basically nuke a boss for the second highest attack value in the game that's going to hit really, 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 really hard because you're going to give it 4.5 times its actual damage at a 75% chance every single 7 seconds. And it costs you nothing. He has no MP issues. He has infinite nukes, and he also has one of the best like consistent damage dealers in the game that can keep up with to high voltage Bunny's ability with his third, which is kind of insane because every 0.3 seconds you're going to give yourself a chance to proc this ability. And when you're running him with the Slayer set, this is now extremely hard hitting. And since you have a 75% chance of again critting, you're going to be hitting for again every 0.3 seconds for 4.5 seconds. You're going to be hitting for an insane amount of damage that is going to be hitting for 4.5 times its original number. This makes that ability here insanely strong. And it's really easy to do all of this stuff. So all of his damages together, it works with them. You're doing damage while you're building these things up. So it's really easy to do. And when you pair him with a little bit of range, you don't have to play as close. Or if you would like to use his backdraft Transcendent module, it becomes extremely strong as well. Making Blair, again, one of the best characters in the game. I was wrong about this in my day 1 tier list. I'm so happy he's strong because he's like Zuko, and you know what I'm called, and we Fire Nation out here. So that's Blair for you. He's a really strong character. Our last S+ tier is actually going to be Yujin. Yujin is one of the most slept on characters in this game. His proliferating allergy is extremely strong. Whenever you're pairing him with the proliferating allergy and the Greg's Reverse Fate, he starts to become one of the best DPS characters in the game. Because whenever you're using your 1, this allows for you to give yourself a huge firearm attack increase the moment that you and someone basically get towards the duration. The cool thing about this though is you can actually move yourself out of the range and actively proc this whenever you want. And if you run duration modules with them, you can keep this up 100% of the time. And when we're talking about his 4, which also gives you a huge DPS boost, and if you again stack into duration, you're allowed to keep this up 100% of the time. There he is. So with Yujin, let's say we have the Greg's Reverse Fate here. We're running, just for the sake of this video here, I'm going to show you this. So again, when you proc Hyperactivity, it gives this boost of 23 firearm attack and then 34 skill power. And then whenever you proc your 1, whenever you either, again, upon dismissal, it grants stimulant to both you and the ally, which means this is mainly for you, but you can give at least one of these boosts to your teammates. Now, the reason why this is so strong is because you can grant this upon dismissal, which means if you get outside of the range, then this will actually happen, which means this is really nice. So again, this is really strong. And if you go ahead and run again the 3 cooldown perks that you're going to need here, so you would technically want to have in here a skill cooldown with him. You would definitely want 9 attribute and singular, and you would definitely want to go ahead and run this because this is a singular skill. This makes it to where now you can nuke everything in the game, and it's going to chain around to everything else really strongly. But mainly, you're giving yourself, when you add it all up together, 100% of the uptime, a 57 firearm attack increase. This is basically like as if you had action and reaction paired on action and reaction with the shot focus, with the actual, you'd now be looking at the sort of DPS boost that you're giving a Sharen from her ambush without overcharge edge. But you're doing this per bullet, every single bullet. This makes him, with the Greg's Reverse Fate, hit extremely hard, much harder than any other character in the game. So you're giving yourself a 57 firearm attack increase just from having these two skills up, and they have 100% uptime. This is really strong. Well, you're also giving yourself a plus 55 skill power boost to yourself and to at least one of your teammates. The other teammates, they will get this one here. If they're in the radius, they will give themselves the 34, and it's a skill power increase. This is extremely big boost, especially for a Lepic. If you give this to a Lepic, both of these, a Lepic will be getting a plus 55 skill power boost to all of his thing. This would be huge for a Lepic. This is honestly the biggest synergy that a Lepic has because it's insane sort of DPS. But his proliferating allergy allows for him to hit extremely hard, as we can see here. This is a super high skill power value, which means you're going to be hitting really hard. And same thing as well, this is on a duration, which means after the duration explodes, after the duration ends, it'll explode it. But if you kill a mob, it'll actually do it. So you kind of have to choose which one you're going to do there. It's up to you how you want to do it, but it doesn't really matter. Your damage comes from the firearm attack. This allows for him, again, to hit the hardest possible with the Greg's Reverse Fate for the actual firearm attack boost you're going to be given to you and your team. This is one of the reasons why he is one of the best characters in this game, absolutely. I'm definitely going to be looking into diving into him just a little bit more, but if that was not enough to sell you on him being S+, he has insane amounts of heals, making him the second best healer in the game. He has a little bit more of a cooldown to work with. If you go ahead and run, where's that? This set here, this would give you number of fingers, MP conversion, focus, and then focus. This gives you to where this is going to hit harder, and this just makes it to where you just need the extra cooldown. This puts you right at around 80% cooldown, which means now your cooldowns are going to be a 22-second cooldown, which is nice. You're going to be at an 11-second cooldown, which is nice. You're going to be at a 1.9-second cooldown on this, which is nice, and you're going to be on a 7-second cooldown for this, which is also nice. So when you pair this also with this bad boy, these three, you're looking at, again, a really strong build, but you really don't die just because his attack, his life values are really high base wise. These are some really high attack values for him. I mean, life values. So Yujin is one of the best characters in the game. His best weapon is easily going to be the Greg's Reverse Fate. You're giving yourself a huge damage increase. It's honestly through the roof how much damage you're going to be doing with this character. Moving on, we have Bunny. Let's go ahead and use the ultimate Bunny. Bunny is obviously cute. That's one of her, cons. She's the second best AoE character in the game. She has 100% uptime on this, so you can just run around and kill everything for free. That's one of her best sort of shining factors. She is a little bit squishy, so that's one of her weaknesses, but you can kind of fix that by running a bunch of modules in order to take care of that, which means you have to run less into actual damage or, quality of life, but it's fine because it doesn't really matter. Whenever you're running her with high voltage, your cooldown is a little bit lower, which is nice, which means you don't have to spec into it, so it has 100% uptime, which means you're allowed to passively do some of the best electric burst DPS. Remember how we talked about this being paired with the Sharen, with the electric resistance and the defense? This is really well for Bunny. This automatically makes Bunny like right here whenever you're pairing it with the Sharen, but she, with high voltage, is literally able to solo any boss in the game sub 1 whenever you have her built right, and you're pairing her with, let's say, the Greg's Reverse Fate, while you're giving yourself a little bit of skill range so that way you don't have to be too close to the boss, so you're never going to have any downtime, making her extremely strong. So that's basically Bunny for you. Really simple character. She kind of makes sense. Next up, we're going to have here Viessa. Viessa is one of the strongest characters because she has no cooldown on all of her skills, making her really fun to play, and she's also the best CC character in the game. She's only not S+ due to the fact that a lot of bosses have a lot of chill resistance, but she still hits really hard, and you can run her with the Greg's Reverse Fate as well, best weapon in the game, and she is going to be able to use all of these skill power moves, and also she has shield recovery through her second ability, allowing for her to be really tanky, and you can kind of keep this going forever and ever, making her really tanky, but also it's mainly just the fact that she has no skill cooldowns, and she hits really hard with all of her abilities. She's a hard-hitting character, and all of these abilities CC, and then her passive damage is insane, while she's also doing all of her skill power damage, which is through the roof. She can now pair that with the best weapon in the game to really nuke everything really fast. So that's basically Viessa for you. Let's go ahead and move on to the next best character here, Freyna. Freyna is an extremely good character. She has honestly some of the most insane bossing clears with the Fallen Hope. But if you still want to use the Greg's Reverse Fate, it's also good as well. That's literally just it. Her dot damage is a little bit too slow. It's decent. She can still do decent damage from a skill power. It's not bad at all, but it's not near of these other characters. So I would recommend you can definitely go for like mobbing builds with her. It's just not as effective. She's basically a worse Blair, and that's pretty much that. But she is really, really good at bossing. But Blair can technically out-boss her with the Greg's Reverse Fate. If he actually has his whole kit built out, you'd be able to nuke a boss really, really quickly with it. So moving on here, we have Ajax. We'll just go with the ultimate Ajax here. Ajax, he can basically get an enhanced skill every 3 seconds with 100% of the uptime on his firearm boost, aligned for him with the Greg's Reverse Fate, being extremely strong. That's a nice little boost for him there. He also can give himself unlimited shields every 6 seconds because he's going to be able to give himself that plus shield boost. That's going to be really, really huge. And since you can, again, if you run no cooldowns with them, have it to where this always happens over and over and over again, this makes him really, really tanky, which means there's no need to run defense, a really trash sort of stat in this game. And being that how everything else works, the defense doesn't really matter. It's more off your actual HP value, and then your actual shield count would make the most difference in you actually surviving content. You would want to have some defense, you know, about 20k would be nice, or a little bit less than that, but I wouldn't recommend going anywhere over 20k. You would mainly want to go ahead and make sure you're giving yourself as much HP as you possibly can. He has a few good transcendent modules as well to make him even stronger, but the main thing that really comes with him, he has insane mobbing just by using his explosion here. It has an extremely wide radius. It can one tap pretty much everything when you're doing it. So he's a great mobber. He's a great character. He can do a lot of bossing DPS. You can honestly solo any boss with him. He's a super, super easy character to play with. Very fun to get into. Really, really strong. Next up, we're going to go to another character that's really strong, Jayber. Now, Jayber is plagued with bugs, so I can't give you a lot of creativity with him. I can only give you what I know it to be strong from my playthrough with him, is that the firearm attack that he gets with the Greg Reverse Fate makes him extremely strong. That's plus 20 attack. You basically hit like Gley, except you don't have any sort of things to go along with that. But having this little drone that just automatically recovers you, you can kind of extend the radius on this just a little bit, and this allows for you to basically sit in this little area and constantly heal yourself and your team. And then you're able to use these to also do damage passively, which is nice, but it's mainly you want both of these up so that way you can get access to this firearm attack increase to allow your Greg's Reverse Fate to hit really, really hard. This is nice. The passive healing is nice whenever you're sitting in a turret for you and your team, but he's not that great of a character. He has a few sort of strengths, but we can't really see until they fix all of his bugs. But I'm not going to put him low because I know he's going to be even stronger than this once they fully fix his character. And next up we have here Esiemo. Esiemo is extremely S. He honestly should be a little bit up here. The only reason why he's not way up here is because of the fact that he takes a little bit of time to build everything. His nukes are strong, but they take a little bit of time to set up, which lowers his overall DPS due to it not being passive as the other characters can do it while they're actually doing weapon DPS. He has to actually sit here and place it down. He actually has to sit here and roll and do whatever. But it's still really, really good. So his explosive evade is his best transcendent module. I believe it's really, really nice for him. I think he needs a huge boost to his skill critical hit rate in order to make him strong enough to compete with the other characters. But he's honestly fine where he's at. He's a really cool character. It just takes him a little bit of time to get himself started up. Now we're going to our last character in the game. We have ourselves here, Luna. Luna is a very opinionated character for a lot of players. We all have our own opinions on her, but the more and more I kept labbing this character, because I generally just like the character as a character, the more I've been able to find from her. Now, what I will say is that her support is not great, being that you can only do skill power damage with this character, and you also get no weapon XP. Those are two weaknesses with her that make her really, really weak. For example, if you can do all of the stuff that I'm about to tell you that you can do with her passively while you're also using the Greg's Reverse Fate, then she would immediately be up here, but she can't, and that makes her weak. No matter how you look at it, whether you like her or you don't like her. Her support is not great because MP is not really something that's an important thing in this game. You pretty much are always kind of swimming in this resource if you have it built with the MP recovery out and in combat and MP recovery modifier or shield recovery modifier, whatever you want to run with her. She is really tanky though, because she can get 50% of her shields back pretty much forever, easily, and there's no sort of like issue with this. So she's extremely, extremely tanky, making her really, really, really good in that sort of situation here. The best set to use for her would be her Slayer set. Without her Slayer set, you kind of aren't that great. Whenever it comes to DPS, you want to give her as much DPS as possible because she doesn't hit as hard. Her current set that you should use is the Hungry Sonic, but it's not great and it doesn't really give you that much as I kept on testing it. So I ran away from that set and now I'm using the Slayer set just to give her more DPS. This actually now makes her the best AoE character in the game because she can now actually hit harder than Bunny, which is really, really cool. Something that I didn't like about her. If you're going to make an AoE character, she has to compete with Bunny or she's just not going to be used. This allows for her, whenever you fully have her fully min-max and you have her build fully, built out with the maximized power and maximized skill, you can make it to where you're giving yourself huge increases to your DPS. And this allows for you to not only through that, but if you're using her Noise Surge Trance module, to give her a crit damage increase of 26, a crit rate increase of 26, and these are all additive, so not by percentages, additive. So this is really strong. A 26 skill power modifier increase, which is also huge. And that's extremely strong whenever you're pairing this with everything else her kit can do, allowing for you to hit up to 700k at a 70% chance of critting. This is extremely strong. And since you're giving yourself these huge damage increases to these values, you're going to be hitting like a truck with this character. So now she's now viable. Like extremely good whenever you're pairing all of this stuff together, allowing for her to again always crit. And if she's always critting at a much higher rate than Bunny, you're looking at again her AoE now hitting really hard. And now since you can technically keep all of these going up a little bit, I still think she needs some quality of life changes to, like, whenever you proc an enhanced skill, it automatically gives you every single hit that you do another +1 to her actual little like stacks to her buffs in Noise Surge. I think that's the biggest quality of life change I would recommend for her. But she's technically in a good spot if this is what you were wanting for her. And that's pretty much Luna for you. I don't want to go too much into depth with her, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, man. I know it was a lot of information. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it all, though. This is where all of the characters I would rank at based off of my 500 hours of experience in playing this game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it all. Hopefully you feel like playing some of these new characters and trying them out. Izuko, let me know what you guys think in the comment section if you agree or if you don't agree. Peace.